Trident Wargaming. Build it, paint it, play it. Everyone, welcome back to another Trident Wargaming podcast. I'm Andy, one of your hosts. Today with me, I have Dayna. How's it going, Dayna?
Not too bad. How's it going, guys?
Pretty good. Dayna's been on the podcast before. We're talking about some bolt action, of course, today as well, as we are hitting up that front of rolling dice for bolt action in the next little bit. But today, we're going to be talking about one of the armies again for bolt action. And this time it's Finland. So out of the Armies of Italy and the Axis book, you have a whole bunch of the other armies that you can play in scenarios and or just pickup games. So Dayna plays the Finns, which is awesome. So we'll be going through a lot of that kind of stuff and the info and special rules and whatnot. But first off, as always, we're going to go to the hobby front. So what's on your plate, Dayna?
Oh, well, actually, I am currently working on some of Warlord's epic scale stuff right now. There's been a new release of one of their game systems, Pike and Shot, that's been shrunk down to their 13.5 millimeter epic scale, and I got some free sprues of this. And
nice.
I thought I'm gonna take a shot and paint some mini minis.
Mini minis. I like that. Mini minis. That's awesome. Oh, very nice.
Yeah, that's ironically enough the only thing on my work table. I caught up on a bunch of projects that I was working on for some of the local scene that went going down here. Some finished up some my bolt action British guys. 2 units of engineers that I had to do, and I finished those up about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Some Horus Heresy stuff for Trident's event a week ago, and now mini minis.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
It's always
these things. Sorry, these things are actually amazing. The detail that they have put into these 13 mil models is really good. Like you can see everything on them. I am quite shocked.
No, that's awesome. I actually have a whole bunch of them. I just haven't really jumped into any of the actual systems to build them and or play them, kind of thing. Well, I have a little bit with like the American Civil War with Jason, but myself, like they're literally sitting in a box, just kind of parked, like the shame pile, my heap and pile of boxes, of course.
Yep.
But yeah, I have the American Civil War stuff, and then they ended up sending me a demo box for the Napoleonic epic stuff as well. So pretty neat to see it and see what they've done with it, and it's actually a pretty smart move by Warlord Games as well, to incorporate being able to play those mass, lines of battle regiments in that epic style, I guess, with all the little minis. So, props to them for doing that, because I think a lot of people may prefer painting, that line of little minis compared to painting that unit of 28 mil figs about 400 times. So
oh yeah. The the 3 foot distance definitely comes in and definitely favors your painting much better when they're only 13 mil rather than 28 mil. So
Yeah.
as long as your colors match, or you try and get your colors to match whatever you're painting on these epic stuff, it doesn't matter if you're 3 foot or 2 foot. Like you can see the detail, but you can also hide the detail.
Nice.
And I think a lot of painters like that. It's a little harder to hide mistakes or fudge things up when you're painting 28.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then compared to these, so
Nice.
yeah, that's good. I also have a box of ACW stuff that I painted up about 2 years ago when I was bored when it first came out and thought I'd try my hand at it. And they were really good too. I thought they actually painted up well. I kind of shot myself in the foot though because I was trying out the contrast on them because I had used contrast at the time, and they were definitely a lot more work. It definitely felt like I was painting 100 guys rather than just a small stand of guys. Just having to go back and fix the mistakes of the contrast and not really knowing what I was doing. But it turned out okay, and then gave them to a friend of mine.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah. I know in our community there's not too many people that play the Napoleonic or ACW or pike and shot. There's a few that do, and it's interesting. It seems really fun though when it does get busted out. I know I've been involved in a couple of the Napoleonic battles, and it's pretty fun to play, especially when you get like that first turn charge with your French dragoons across the board because you made 3 orders, and you're looking at your opponent's face and they're like just shaking their head at you, right? And frickin' Andy, So, but yeah, it's one of those games that it's definitely just fun to play, and the generals come out, as you're playing, right? Everybody's joking around and stuff like that, so it's good.
Yeah,
it's
get a couple of little internal arguments on one side about who should act first or who should do what first, just because you're both the tactical genius kind of butts head between you and your friends. But yeah, it's we're kind of the same down here. We do have in Calgary, we do have 2 moderately active historical groups that do play a lot of Warlords historical games outside of bolt action. So things like Hail Caesar or Pike and Shot or Napoleonics, Black Powder, and the many plethora of small skirmish games in those eras. But it's one of those scenes, like it's you get people who are dedicated to it and who like it for their various reasons, colorful uniforms, big infantry battles, or even just the historical aspect of it. And then there's people that just look at it as being like almost boring at times. Like they might look at it and be like, oh, that's really cool. It's a really cool paint job, or I like how that looks and stuff. But the interest is not there for them. And there's not a lot of diversity in that aspect. Like it's one side or it's the other for most gamers that I've seen anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense because I can see it too, right? Like trying to introduce Napoleonics to even a couple of my friends and even some of the guys, right? There's a pretty good chance that I wouldn't get anybody to even really look at it, right? Not too many people are interested in that era. It's either like World War II or futuristic.
Yeah.
Right, or fantasy essentially. But I guess it's there's the flair like of these other games that have these big flashy units or models or whatever, whereas Napoleonics, it's pretty straightforward. You're in white, red, or blue uniforms with black pipe hats, and just it's all muskets, big
March,
lines,
shoot.
big lines of miniatures, and that's some cavalry cannons, and that's about it. Well, sorry to tell you, but that's about it. that's how that's historical. Like that's really about it. So if you're into that, cool.
And and it even gets me a little sometimes too when someone shows like a vague interest in especially one of Warlord's games in these genres, and you start talking about the game and the rules and kind of like the layout or the idea behind it, and then the interest is kind of there, and then you say and it was all developed by Rick Priestley and Paul Sawyer, and for a lot of gamers in our generation, we're like, Rick Priestley, wasn't he the guy that did Warhammer?
Yeah.
And you're like, Paul Sawyer, wasn't he the guy that did White Dwarf? And you're like, yeah.
The founding fathers of GW. Yeah.
Exactly. Those are the guys that built that brand and helped build that empire, and now they're doing what they love in this other area, and occasionally you might get someone who gets a little bit more interested.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But one of those obscure games.
Yeah. What about you, Andy? What's on your plate?
I've been, I guess, gaming. Also, I kind of, ever since the Heresy event finished off, and I was able to put my paintbrush down a bit, after trying to pump out so many white scars in so little time. I kind of just took a little break and kind of just looked around and said to myself, what is it that I really want to work on? Funny enough, I banged out my Legion champion for Heresy for my scars with the banner that I posted earlier in the week, last week. And just ended up grabbing some Conquest Last Argument of Kings miniatures that I have lined up, and just started basing them, kind of slowly tinkering on stuff, putting some projects away, bringing some other projects out. But yeah, essentially that was about it. Like, not much. Playing some games. Played two games of bolt action on the week, so that was good to get back into that. And just looking at some other stuff coming out, looking at different armies, painting videos. That's really about it for me in the hobby section.
Just taking that hobby relaxation time?
Yeah, a little bit. And just kind of taking a little break from, from kind of Heresy. But at the same time, still slowly working on them to get them complete, right? The white scars. So every week every day I'll put a little bit of color on stuff and get it to a point where it's okay. It's ready for the AK. Bang. That's done. Cleaning up. Bang. Done. Right. So that, and I guess this next up will be finishing off the DAC army for bolt action that I've been doing for my slow grow. So essentially, I have a tank and the actual 88. So the Panzer III and an 88 to finish off. And that army is going to be at 1,000 points. So then I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest, the other 250. Build it, paint it. So yeah, like I mentioned on one of the other episodes, I got a couple of... I want to do a little bit of videos on, how I did my tank and my 88 kind of thing. Plus, I got some micro art studio terrain to assemble and kind of do a little review on. So, yeah, just some stuff for the channel, essentially.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a good little hit there on the hobby front. So, interesting that we were talking about the Napoleonics and all that stuff, which is like a bit more of a rare game and session or system to play. And yet here we're looking at some Finns to play, which are a little bit more rare in the bolt action scene, I would say.
I think outside of 2 other armies, I think they're one of the more rarer forces you'll see out on the table for sure.
Yeah, I know we have a gentleman here playing them in the slow grow. It's his first bolt action army, and he decided to go with the Finns. So, which is interesting. Yeah,
he's gonna love this episode.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I guess one thing with the Finns, range of miniatures through Warlord Games, I'd say they're pretty decent for what they have compared to what they have in the book here.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that really stands out for them?
How about we cover miniatures a little bit later, because I got some points on this that I want to that we'll talk about a little bit later, even though we can kind of work it into like hobby time. Yeah, I think a little bit later it might
fair enough.
Better.
Yeah. Fair enough. Then I guess we'll just jump right into the army itself. So
that sounds like a great idea.
So army special rules. So you got a couple good ones in here.
Oh man. These special rules for this army and bolt action are probably and arguably the best in the game. And for good reason. They literally put the fear in your opponent. The Finns have scariness wrapped up in a nice little ball that they hold very close to their chest. So, yeah, we'll go over these, and everyone will find out why in a minute. So the first army special rule, outside of the normal bolt action rules, is called Sisu. SISU. Now, Sisu is something that the Finns call that is kind of a bit of bravado, a bit of bravery, and a little bit of tenacity, kind of all rolled up into one.
Right.
And it's meant to represent the Finns' ability to kind of persevere in the face of all danger. And in war. And what the special rule does is that when any of your infantry or artillery units are reduced to 50% or less models of their starting strength, they go up 1 rank in experience. So an inexperienced troop will become a regular troop. Regulars will become veterans. Now here's where things get scary, and most of these rules will do it. The Finns break the rule that everyone has a morale of 10, and you can never get higher, because veterans, when they are reduced to 50% or less, their morale goes up to an 11.
Yeah. Yeah, which is pretty tough.
So, yeah, trying to get veteran Finns out of a building or a dug-in position on a leadership roll of 11 or less, it's kind of hard. Double box cars is the only thing that'll make them run, and yeah,
You just gotta hit him. You just gotta hit him with a bigger gun.
Like an 88.
Yeah.
This rule is kind of the defining thing for Finns because of this automatic increase.
Right.
And what's very interesting is that in the rule write-up itself, it says that when the infantry unit is reduced to that 50% or below, this automatically kicks in.
Yeah.
So, a regular unit let's say a regular 8-man unit that gets shot up and loses 4 guys, before they make morale tests, they automatically jump to veteran status and can then test on that veteran status. They immediately get better at their job. So it can put a bit of a hamper on people. Yep.
Yeah, because the actual wording is before any more dice are rolled.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you were to take casualties from a flamethrower, reduces you. So now, before anything else is rolled, pins, this or that, whatever the case may be, you're now +1, for morale, essentially, for like for a veteran, right? So, which is, yeah, that makes a big difference. Huh.
It's and that wording is very specific, and it hasn't been FAQ'd or anything. So you are right. When shooting with different profiles or different weapons, like it can change a firefight fairly quickly. And I know that a lot of people might sit there and they might roll their small arms fire together with other things, but if you say have a flamethrower in a unit and small arms, they don't actually get to fire at the same instance.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, they can it can be a little bit tricky trying to deal with them, and it lives up to its name of being Sisu. A little bit of bravado, bravery, ferocity, and tenacity. So, and it actually encapsulates the Finnish war mentality in real life fairly well. The Finnish army was greatly outnumbered during the entirety of World War II. They fought mostly the Soviets,
right.
For the most part, and they didn't have the bodies to be able to take them on one-on-one. So they had to be tougher. They had to be stronger and smarter, and that's what they did. So. Yeah.
Nice.
Next up, we have Trained Huntsman. So, Trained Huntsman is another one of their strengths that, again, encapsulates their way of war in the army. And it says that many Finns were expert marksmen, used to hunting and shooting for leisure. And so we're very much used to lying silently in wait for an approaching target while taking careful aim. So as long as any Finnish infantry has an ambush order die next to it, it can re-roll morale checks, which is pretty good. But it's actually the second part that makes them better, where it says also when the unit opens fire from an ambush, so you got your guys lined up in a building, you put your ambush order down, and your enemy pops in front of you. It says all models in the unit that are armed with a rifle, including snipers, gain an additional +1 to hit bonus. That is phenomenal for a game where rifles and bodies win you combat.
Yeah, it's that kind of mitigates, some of the negatives in the game, right? And in like any game, if there's a way of playing an army or making a unit that can mitigate something or give you a bonus to something, is really, really good. And in bolt action, you don't really see that too much, right? You don't really see a bonus of to hit. So this is something completely different out of most armies.
Exactly. And like a lot of I guess experienced players know that minuses to hit happen all the time. You're firing through a hedge, you're firing through a building, your opponent is down. The minuses stack up, and the firefight can become a little harder. But having this in play, on top of the fact that it's on an ambush order, so you get to pick when you get to use it, and you get to control that firefight, just allows you to not only mitigate your rolls, but control the battle. You are the one that gets to do that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the that's really the second strength of this army, is that the person who's playing it is generally the one in control of the battle, because they do get to try and maximize the use of their rules, and they want to maximize those uses. So it's a good one. +1 to hits and a reroll morale.
Yep.
Especially if you're at half strength and your veterans are morale 11, you just got flamethrowers.
And I think, yeah, true. And I think we'll go into it here soon enough. But I think there's a unit that there's actually a pretty wicked little combo that I think that plays with.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. But
I know what you're laying down.
We'll definitely get to that. So.
And the third and final rule, the Finnish rule, is Motti, M-O-T-T-I-E, M-O-T-T-I. And what this does is, this represents their ability to get around the enemy, work in smaller units, and become more of almost a modern tactical unit. So rather than having your officer give you orders to do everything, they were more able to handle themselves. And what it does is it just negates the -1 modifier for the order test when you're outflanking. So when you want to bring your couple of your rifle squads out for maybe one of your tanks, you can negate that -1 modifier, which is again another mitigation. You're coming in at a straight roll rather than hampered, and even if, let's say, someone's playing got the Brandenburgers, the German anti-outflank squad, it kind of negates that, because instead of suffering a -2, you're now suffering a -1, which is a little safer than any other army on the field. So
yeah, yeah, that's pretty good. It's kind of like a pack of wolves, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. But I like their description of how they even mentioned that they would sometimes let the enemy escape a little bit, just to kind of cut the forces into a manageable, target to take out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's almost like that. You see those scenes in some of like the ancient movies or TV shows where they got the shield wall up and everyone's fighting, and then all of a sudden they kind of open that sleeve and let some guys out to deal with them.
Yeah.
That's the Finnish use that on a large scale battle, tactically. Like it's amazing what they did. their history is just amazing. Like reading up on it, what they had to go through and what they endured. It was awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely an interesting army, both on the tabletop and in history. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, one of the the only democratically elected governments that fought for the Axis powers. There's some history behind there, but it's still like it's interesting to see. So, guess we should get into some of these units.
The units, yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of the units are, some of the basic units. Obviously, your HQ and stuff like that for observers. Pretty much the same as everybody else, except your medic actually has a pistol or a rifle, which is interesting. I don't know if the other ones do. Don't know if other.
They do not. The medic in this is actually armed, and he can have a rifle. He still can't shoot though. That's because of the Geneva Convention rules. He cannot shoot, but he does get these armaments. So
right,
it's interesting.
So yeah, I mean, guess to defend himself, right? Eventually, but regardless, yeah, pretty much basic there. And then we jump into some of these infantry squads, which there's a few in here that are named or more specialized units. So I guess we could start off with the Winter War Rifle Squad. One thing I did notice in here is they're very much like the German book, where they are regulars or veterans.
Yes.
Right. I don't think there's inexperience at all in at least your basic troops, right? Like not basic troops, but your troops, period.
Yeah, your infantry are all regular or veteran. There are no inexperienced infantry in Finland. Except the Soviets. But.
Yeah. So interesting enough, like, your usual rifles and whatnot. You can have for this squad, for the Winter War Rifle Squad. Interesting that they say either the NCO may be equipped with a submachine gun instead of a rifle for 3 points, or one other soldier may be equipped with an LMG for 20. So essentially, you're not taking the SMG. I'm gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You want to kind of stick with your rifle, just due to the fact that probably is more beneficial for your style of army, just due to the huntsman rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So makes sense. If they're getting that close for assaulting you, well, I think you probably fucked up. But it happens.
A little too close, yeah.
So, but they tend to have a lot of options on these units, which is pretty neat. Improvised anti-tank weapons, count as anti-tank grenades. Mm-hmm. And then you are also able to become a tough fighter for 1 point on most of them, and also equipped with skis for 1 point.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool. That's different. And
they are definitely geared towards those winter themed and winter rules wise missions. If you or your group happen to be playing with them, or if they're incorporated into any of the mission packs, those skis definitely come in handy. Being able to move fast over snowy terrain and stuff. I once argued that I should be able to use my skis in the desert, but my opponent said no. But the tough fighters is definitely where it's at. At 1 point a man, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You get 1 NCO and 4 men, and then 4 additional men with rifles. So 9 men, 9 points for tough fighter. It's worth every penny.
Kind of a no-brainer. Take it. Yeah, definitely. Next up, we have what? Continuation war rifle squad.
Yep. It is basically the same as a Winter War rifle squad, with the exception that the NCO and 1 additional soldier may be equipped with a submachine gun for 3 points, and then you have another option where 1 soldier can take a light machine gun for 20 points with a loader. And you also have the option that 2 men can take Panzerfausts for 5 points each, which is super handy.
Yeah, no doubt. Some anti-vehicle, anti-tank weaponry. That helps. Especially when you're in ambush.
Ambush position, firing off those rifles. But because the Panzerfausts are one-use items, they can also be fired in a separate direction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and then again, you can buy Tough Fighter, you can buy skis, you can buy anti-tank grenades. So
these
pretty standard rifle squad.
Yeah, so these 2 squads to me seem like, your regular and your veteran units, more like just like the German here infantry and whatnot, with a little bit more options, of course, right? Because these are more specialized units. And then the Panzerfaust, they're kind of like a Panzer Grenadier unit almost.
Yeah.
Just not on the exceptional side of the extra LMGs or assault rifles kind of thing, right? So
exactly. The Winter War Rifle Squad is supposed to represent the initial attack of the Soviets on Finland, and the Finns having to do what they can with what they had. The Continuation War Rifle Squad is after the Winter War happened. Germany offered assistance to Finland during their mutual disgust of the Soviets, and so they were equipped with more equipment that they needed, like the LMG and the Panzerfaust. So the units were able to split things up a little bit more, and they had a little bit more equipment. So that's kind of where that difference is when you're playing kind of in-period or in-period missions.
Nice. There you go. Now the next unit, I couldn't tell you how to really pronounce the name of it.
Well, allow me to assist you with that.
I will allow you to assist me with that.
So the next squad we have is the Jakari Light Infantry Squad, or Jaegers. Jakari is the term for mountain or light infantry. And these guys are the best of the best at the time during the Continuation War. Some of the more younger, spunkier soldiers ready to go in on action. So they start off as veteran infantry with an NCO and 4 men with rifles. You can take 6 additional soldiers with rifles for 13 points. And here's where the options differ from the regular rifle squads. So any soldier may have a submachine gun instead of their rifle for 3 points. So that means that you can equip them for anything you need them to do. You want them rapid assault, give them their submachine guns. You want them to hold an objective or hold a spot, keep them with their rifles, put them in ambush. They're very universal soldiers. 1 soldier can have a light machine gun for 20 points. 2 men can have Panzerfausts for their 5 points. They get their anti-tank grenades. But instead of but not only with their skis, they have the option of buying bicycles for 1 point a model,
Hmm.
as well as the tough fighter for 1 point. So the bicycles is a very interesting addition to this, and I actually had to do a little bit of reading, and what this squad is meant to do, or is meant to represent, is that these are scouts who are out behind the enemy, behind the Soviet lines, moving quickly along the roads. But because of the terrain of Finland, where it's very mountainous and very there's a lot of trees and hills, smoke and exhaust can be seen and heard for a very long time. So these guys were given bicycles during the spring and summer and into the fall to try and traverse the roadways that they knew so well to get behind their enemies. And in reality, a bike can go where a truck can't. So they could go up a hillside with their bikes and then come down in another fashion. So it's an interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
but again, they are a slightly better infantry squad with that ability to take submachine guns, and you kind of gotta think about that tactically of what you want them to do on the battlefield. But
right,
they are still just infantry altogether.
So the next unit is probably the one that you probably see the most in an army. They're veterans as well. They are, is it pronounced CC?
That's right.
Recon squads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So interesting that we've gone from, kind of your infantry squads that are regular to veteran, couple of extra things that they can take. You start going to more specialized units, and now you are going to an even more specialized unit, which is pretty neat. So I'll let you read this one and go through this one because I'm sure you're itching.
I can't wait for the next one, but yes, the CC Recon. They are your bread and butter. So again, veteran infantry, 70 points at 1 man or 1 NCO and 4 men. They can take up to 4 different soldiers, or at 14 points. You can equip them with submachine guns instead of a rifle for 3 points each. 1 soldier can have a light machine gun, and the entire squad can be equipped with anti-tank grenades for 2 points a model. They can get their skis for 1 point, and they can get tough fighter for 1 point per model. Now, even though they sound the exact same as the Drakari Light Infantry Squad, with the exception of no bicycles, these guys are better. So they have a special rule called Master of the Hunt. So Master of the Hunt is allows the CC Recon squads to move into an ambush position. What this means is that when your CC Recon squad advances, makes an advance move, and they don't shoot after that advance move, they can turn their dice to ambush and prepare to fight, which is absolutely amazing. Because +1 on ambush. Rule. Exactly.
Yep, exactly. So this is the unit that you want to have equipped with pretty much rifles, right? And then using that Master of the Hunt combined with the Trains Huntsman rule, getting that bonus, getting into position, setting up that ambush, moving around wherever you need to, getting back into cover, getting into different cover, different angles, and just taking full, using the resources you have at hand essentially to set yourself up to pick off those units that are going to come across you, and you're going to trigger your ambush.
Exactly.
So, and it's crazy. You're veteran, like
Yeah,
70 points. You're veteran. You have lots of options. I mean, even against tanks, you can still be a tank hunter. Combat, you're a tough fighter. Like, it's a really, really, really good unit. And then in combination with those rules as well.
It is probably one of the scariest units that people have to fight on the battlefield. And it has so the Finnish army has that little bit of give and take. You have to give in order to get. So as an example, you start off with 5 men at 70 points. You can add up to 4. Okay, if you want to kind of make your rules efficient, you're only going to take 8 men in this unit. And most of your rifle squads. It's just an easier number to go with when you're looking at your Monte and your morale and experience level boost. Because when you lose 4 men, you're going to go up in experience. But being able to use that to put these guys at morale 11 after moving and then dropping into ambush and then killing some guys and then moving and dropping into some ambush and killing some guys. Pretty much doing that almost every turn because you have a 24-inch rifle range with +1 to hit. Like, they're scary. They're so scary.
Yeah, they're definitely good at what they're supposed to do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
you don't even
you don't even take a light machine gun.
No, there would almost be no point with this particular unit in particular. There's no point in taking that LMG. Yeah. You're much better off with a rifle shot for your range. The you get no minuses for it. Matching up all your special rules. The rifle is just safer. So now you're saving points. You're saving points on your list.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. LMGs, machine guns are still good, but
oh yeah,
there's other units out there in other armies that they do it even better. So, yeah, 20 points for an LMG, or you just take another rifle and go from there and take your bonuses and use all that up. Yeah, that's a good unit. I like that unit.
It's probably it is the thing you will see the most of in any Finnish force because of it. You're going to pay the Finns are going to pay for it. At 70 points for 5 guys, it's as expensive as a normal veteran unit, but they are up there.
I like that the Kolta were legendary huntsmen able to smell the Russians hundreds of yards away in the deep forest, or able to gauge the number of enemy soldiers and horses by hearing alone. So,
right? That is such a Finnish thing that would go on
in the story. Yeah, exactly. Nice.
And
nice.
The Finnish special character, I think he's in this book. I think he's a little later on. But the most decorated sniper in World War II was one of these CC recon squads. Simo Hai. He was something 500 confirmed kills without using like a modified scope. He would just use a targeter and sometimes even just his iron sights. Killing Soviets in the war, and just a badass.
And he was messed up too, right?
Yeah.
Like he took an
facial
injury to the face.
Yeah. Him and his team were on a recon squad, or on a recon, and they were ambushed by some Soviets, and he ended up taking a grenade pretty close to the face, and he lived. He lived to keep fighting. Actually, he went on leave and got some constructive surgery, but he and then continued to go out and fight. But yeah, he became the White Death after that because the Russians thought that they got him, and then their officers started falling fairly.
Dying again, yeah. Whoops.
So that's when he got his true nickname was the White Death. So good old Simo.
Crazy.
So great unit, love it. I'm gonna let you try and pronounce this next one.
Oh, good luck. Calcaportio? I don't know.
You're actually fairly close. The general consensus is that it's Calcapartio.
Okay.
So the TO is that kind of that Spanish roll. Partio. The Calcapartio. So the Calcapartio long distance recon squad. These guys are amazing. They are the elite of the elite of the Finnish army. So, arguably the Americans have the Marines. The Brits have their commandos and SAS. The Germans have their SS squadrons and their elite units. The Kaukopartio are the elite of Finland. And they are elite. They start off as veteran infantry, 115 points for 5 guys, 1 NCO and 4 men. 115 points. They all come with submachine guns and anti-tank grenades. And then they only have 3 options. So the 3 options are you can add 4 additional soldiers with SMGs at 23 points apiece. And then any soldier may choose to have a rifle in addition to their submachine gun for 1 point.
Interesting.
Then the entire squad may be equipped with skis for 1 point. So there's only 3 options. Pretty easy to choose from. And judging on the rest of the Finnish army, those extra rifles are kind of worth it when looking at the rules. But here's where they get good. And by good, I mean psycho. So their special rules are they are tank hunters. They are fanatics.
Yep.
They are medics. They have the deep strike mission, and they're ski troops. So they're medics. Every single one of them is a medic. Each man carries a field surgery kit and is a skilled medic. Therefore, the unit can self-medicate and always acts exactly the same way as if a medic was within 6 inches of that unit. They can heal each other.
Yeah, so they essentially have like a feel no pain.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. 9 guys sitting on an objective with machine guns and rifles, and they're all medics. They're pretty good. They're fanatics too. They're crazy. Makes it just that much better. Their deep strike mission rule is actually one of their better ones. So when outflanking, as described in the Bolt Action Rulebook, Calcapartio books may enter from either the left or right table edge as normal, or even from the enemy's own table edge. So what they get to do is they get to wait, come on. You have to pre-decide when they're going to be coming on for their deep strike. But they have to wait for when you rolled your reserves, and they can literally just pop on to the backside of your opponent's table edge to cause some ruckus. These guys are potentially game changers for a Finnish army, and I do mean that in the game. They have the ability to turn a tide just by coming on the board in certain missions or in certain scenarios that need that long or that far distance table interaction. So, and they're veterans.
That's a lot of goodies. Like, that's almost like too good. That's crazy.
They are too good. They are fairly strong. I have seen Calcaparcio take on panzers who have been sitting on the backboard, just holding the line or holding a table quarter or a table quarter. I've seen them take on just mass units of infantry with their submachine guns being in close range. I've seen them take objectives and hold on to them for the rest of the games.
Right.
For 115, and then you're doing another 100 points, so 215 points. Like, they are a tank all on themselves that can heal.
Yeah, that's it kind of blows my mind, actually. I've actually never fought against Finns, so now actually kind of looking at them in more detailed. I know what army I'm going to start. No, I'm kidding. I got enough armies to play with and build. I can see why there's that big attraction to playing this army. I mean, rule-wise, that is, of course. Their infantry have some really, really good rules. And then their army rules combine with that. And not to mention, they also have a rule that ignores the -1 modifier on coming onto the table while outflanking.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's some scary shit. Yo. So.
And the best part about it is that like, your opponent knows that unit is sitting over there and they are going to outflank.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually don't know where they're going to come from. And if your opponent is fluent in bolt action rulebooks, they know that it's a scary unit. Like, the Finns can control a battlefield without even having all of their force on the battlefield.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, how would you kind of counter that unit? Essentially,
machine guns. If you're putting 4 or 5 shots into them around, they are going to fail a wound. They're going to fail their medic save, and they will go down eventually. So, pointing rifles and pointing shots at them, like, they will go down. And the Finn, like, personally playing them, like, I've had to make that decision of, do I put this unit, do I put my order dice down, or do I keep them, ready to fight and suck up those wounds to try and, push the mission. So they can be countered, but for 215 points, it takes quite a few rifles and quite a few machine gun shots to put them in their place. But
this unit almost would tell me, like, stay away from the edges, get your army moving, go, like, depending on the mission or whatever. Like, if there's objectives that you need to move for, well, you better be moving for them, and, like, staying away from the edges to not hamper this unit, but, like, reduce its effectiveness.
Exactly.
Right? And then, like, if you have artillery in the back, pretty good chance they're done for when this unit comes on. But at the same time, maybe that artillery unit really isn't the target for that unit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, having a tank, you see it a lot. Guys use their armor and their tanks in the background, and they just kind of castle there with the tank and open fire. But I've also been on that receiving end of having that tank in the back end trying to do some work, and it's that one mission where you could come on from whatever board edge that your opponent didn't come off the last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I've lost a tank to that. Like, I've lost a what was it? IS-2, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just enemy Panzerschreck team came in and was in range and blew me a new one from behind, right? So, so yeah, this unit, like, not only does it put a little bit of thought process on how you're going to move your infantry units, but now you have to worry about the placement of your artillery. Can it move? Can it get into a further position where you're not just going to get raked by SMGs when they initially come on? And then at the same time, your tanks, well, if these things make contact with your tanks, well, your tank's probably done. Especially considering it'll be coming from a flank or a rear.
Exactly. And this is why I say that the Finns have a level of control over that battlefield whenever you play that game. This unit sitting off to the side of the table, your opponent knows they're going to come in. So like you say, they're going to move in, they're going to target an objective, they're going to try and mitigate what this unit can do. But what does that do? That brings you into engagement range for my army, which includes my rifle squads who are in ambush, my CC who are also in ambush, my continuation wars who are also in ambush. Like, this is what I mean by that control. So it is a good army to face off against, and you will always have a good fight for the most part playing against Finns, but they are definitely a hard army to play with. You do have to do, I don't want to say min-max, but you do have to utilize all of your special rules and all of your unit rules to their full effectiveness to play this army well. Because in reality, like 60 Soviet or like a 60-man Soviet squad or squads could charge through and roll through my 9 defenders per squad in no time. Like it can happen. So trusting your infantry and utilizing them to their highest level is totally what Finns do best.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So scary. I love them.
And I think that's where the cream of the crop is for them, for sure. Is those infantry units that they have.
Yeah.
Because as we go forward, like right now, we're going to be like you're looking at like medium machine gun teams, anti-tank rifle teams, Panzerschreck flamethrower teams. So they have the options for those.
Yeah, you get your normal stuff that you would with any other army. You get your light artillery, medium artillery, your howitzers. Their tanks and their vehicles are where they lack, and it's a much smaller list than really anything else.
So with these other teams, though, the one thing that's different, again, you can't take inexperience.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, they actually have like the ski troops and like the ski and gun mounted on a Accio sledge for like an anti-tank rifle team.
Yep.
So they very much have given those regular style teams the access or already the ski rule, right, which is it's a common thing with this army. That's they know their landscape, right? So they've adapted those weapons for the landscape. Panzerschreck team is quite the same thing. Same thing with the flamethrower, except they can have skis as well. Sniper team. So sniper team's a little different. Have skis as well, but then they also have Master of the Hunt.
Yep.
So essentially it's turning their dice into ambush after an advance without a fire order.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is pretty cool. Fits right in with the army, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Looks like they're mortar teams. One of the armies that's able to get heavy mortars, which is interesting. I'm sure the Germans supplied some of that stuff, maybe, or got some stuff from the Soviets throughout the war.
Yeah, a couple of 120 millimeter heavy mortars from the Soviets. Yeah.
There you go. And then like you're saying, looking through the artillery, you got your light, your medium, your heavies. Essentially the same thing as most other armies. Gun shields, can add spotters, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's nice that you have those options still, because you might need a little bit of that punch.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Same thing with the light or the anti-tank guns. What is it? Looks like, you get a heavy anti-tank gun if you like, which is good.
Good old Pack 40.
Yep. The light anti-tank guns. The looks like there's a upgrade for like an M42 anti-tank gun. So
yeah. And what it does is it adds +1 to the penetration value at short range.
There you go.
But it's only for the continuation war armies. It does specify that. So
gotcha.
Keep that in mind when building your lists.
Some AA guns. And then, as we go into tanks, one thing I did notice with the tanks is a few of them are captured.
Yeah.
Tanks as well, right?
Yeah. Most of the tanks in the Finnish army were captured vehicles or repurposed vehicles that were didn't have a ready supply of parts. You'll see T-34s. You're going to see what the KV-1s would pop up every now and then. The T-28s. Mostly Soviet tanks, obviously, because they were in an abundance.
BT-5s, BT-7s, yep.
Yeah, they would be captured quite regularly. But they did have their own tank, I guess tankette, which is the Vickers 6, which was given to them by the British for their purposes. I know there was some pre-war trade that was going on, and the Brits offered them, but they are they're tankettes. They're 7+ armored vehicles, so they're not the best compared. But you do get Stugs.
Yes.
You do get Stugs, and they are not unreliable. That's right. They're not unreliable. So something to look forward to. There is hope in a Finnish tank army.
Yep, and we get the forward-facing heavy anti-tank gun, and hull-mounted MMG, just like any other, essentially, at that state. The usual cost, close to $230.
Yep,
that's pretty average for that style of tank. But definitely, if most of them have that unreliable rule, which could be quite the hamper.
It definitely hampers, but it also makes the tanks relatively cheaper than what you would be buying them in the regular army. It's kind of that little balance out. I believe the T-34 is 220 some odd points in the Soviet army. This one they have it as like 204.
So 204 at veteran.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing I noticed. Regular veterans.
Yeah.
And some of your bigger Soviet tanks that they've captured are just veteran, period. So that's interesting. Prices might be a little cheaper at veteran, but you get the unreliable, which, essentially, if you suffer one or more pin markers as a result of an enemy attack, it automatically suffers one further pin in addition. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how bad is that? I mean, it could be bad if you actually survive the attack. Because, I mean, let's be frank. I mean, I had a game today with Jason, and the first shot took out my Panzer III on the first turn. What do you want me to say, right?
Exactly.
Like this, you're paying a little bit less, but you still have access to the tank. If you play it smart, you know, if you play it where you're not taking that chance where you're actually going to get hit, maybe you put it on the refuse flank and use it against the infantry. It's pretty cheap for a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Right? KV1's a bigger price point, but it's a KV1, so
it is.
Yeah.
Still, only veteran.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, like, okay, you have your Stug, right? Looks like you have your BT-42 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you get your medium howitzer tank.
It's probably a
whole bunch of armored cars.
Yeah, the BT-42 is probably going to be your go-to for your tank slot for the most part, because it doesn't have unreliable. It's 140 points for regular. It is a light tank, so most heavier weapons are going to take it out relatively quickly at 8+ armor value. But it can do some things with that medium howitzer. Like it's not soft, and it's one of the cheaper ones, like I said, because you have regular at 140 or veteran at 168. So pretty manageable points wise.
Yeah. So not a heck of a lot of options for tanks and or armored cars, but at the same time, I mean, you know, they probably weren't producing as hardcore as some of the other countries in the war, right?
Oh yeah.
So, but you have some good options. I do like the options in here. It gives it a bit of flair. Plus, you can always buy some Soviet miniatures and obviously paint them up and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, put those nice decals on, and now you have yourself that captured vehicle, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you get the cute little consulates to go with it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at that too. But yeah, there's that's pretty much it for in this main book. So you have options. It's a playable army, right? Unlike some of the other nations that are in like this book and or the France and Allies book, some of the nations just have so little units that sometimes they're not really a playable army. They're more of just a playable force in a scenario. But this is definitely a playable army for sure. I'm not sure if there's any other books that have other units for them. Dana, you might.
There isn't. The only
isn't?
units you get are from the Italian and Axis book. It's they're all right there.
Okay. Well, I'm sure. Who knows? Possibly in the future there might be more, but I mean, this is a really good section for them. And then you also do have some theater selectors as well. Just essentially to give you kind of an idea of the different eras and different years of battle and what they had in their lineup. So you got what, 1, 2, 3. You got about 4 theater selectors.
Yeah.
That you can play around with as well. Recreate those battles, against the Soviets and stuff. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty good. So I guess if you want, I mean, did you want to touch on miniatures or?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So this army has the aesthetic of the the Finnish army is fairly close to German standard. So if
The
you look,
Germans.
yeah, I know. If you look at a German army, if you kind of squint your eyes a little bit, you can see the Finns inside of it. And the
Right.
reason for that is because during the war, the Germans supplied the Finns with equipment, LMGs, uniforms, helmets, everything. The Germans said, "You're going to fight the Soviets. We're going to help." So they have that aesthetic. The only differences are obviously color. But as the war went on, the Finns started losing weapons and had to collect new ones. So they would take whatever they could, and whatever they could get was mostly Soviet stuff. So from a hobby perspective, this army is great at being able to kit bash your own squads, make them unique looking by putting Russian heads on German here bodies with maybe what's the iconic Russian machine gun, the one that's got that little barrel or that little magazine underneath in there. Like you can really play around with the kits that are available everywhere to make this army look good, and no one can judge you for it because it might look like Russian, but if you put a gray uniform on them, they're going to look like Finns.
Yeah,
Kind of how
captured equipment. Yeah.
exactly captured equipment is good. Now, when it comes to getting into this, here's my little bit of a bitter taste. I ended up buying the metal finish models from Warlord off of somebody here in the city who had a majority of the range. And these models are terrible.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
these are old metal 28s that Warlord created. They are old. So the molds have done what molds do. You can kind of see slippages. You can see that there's some degradation from casting over and over and over again.
Okay.
And the models are bad. The heads come separately on almost all of the Warlord finish models. The heads come separately, so you can put cap hats on or helmet heads on or do whatever.
Right.
But most of them have the neck. The neck attached to their head, and you slot the neck into the neck hole of the body, and that's all you get. There's not a lot of room to play around. The heads generally only fit in one direction, so even if you want one of your guys to look to the left or look to the right, you can see that it doesn't look
It's not
right.
really
It doesn't
made.
look natural. So and like I said, these are older sculpts. I've built them, I've painted them. After priming them and painting them, you catch more things. You catch detail missing in certain aspects. You catch a lot of flash that you didn't see or mold slippage. So it's not that I don't recommend them, because there are some that are really good. There's little hidden gems.
Fair enough.
The continuation war rifles, rifle box squad, it's bad. But the MMG team that you can pick up that has the little skis on the MMG, it's beautifully cast. All the models look good. They sit well. They join up together really well. They huddle around their MMG really well. They look great. The command blister pack that you can get with the Finnish officer, and I think he's got a sniper dude with him, or a sniper with him. They look great. The bodies are a little disproportionate compared to the metal heads that you get. I think there was maybe 2 different sculptors working on it. But they're dressed a little bit more for cooler temperatures, so they actually look okay.
Okay.
And then the ski troopers, probably one of the most iconic units in this game. Most people use them as the CC Recon team or the Calcaparcio. Those miniatures look really good. They build really good. They're probably one of my favorites. So again, little hidden gems, but some of them, the casts are just bad. But there's ways to fix that. or
Fair
at
enough.
least hobby yourself into something a little more pleasant to paint. The easiest thing you can do, if you're doing something that is very spring themed or summer themed, you take a German here miniature, like a plastic German here, one of the Blitzkrieg miniatures that Warlord produces, or I think Wargames Atlantic have the German Lear, and you use them. They have the hats, they have the rifles, they have SMGs. They look perfectly fine when painted up in the finished uniform colors. It's a light gray top with a dark gray pants. And even though they look like Germans, they're going to look like Germans. But you can go one step further too by incorporating some summer Soviet stuff or some regular looking Soviet stuff. Maybe putting German weapons on a Soviet body or Soviet weapons on a German body. Mix and match the helmet options for the both plastic lines. Talk to your mates about picking up some bits if anybody's got some left over. It'll make you feel better about painting your army when your stuff kind of looks good. And
Fair enough.
It's what I did for half of my squads, and I told myself I was going to paint up the metal ones, and I did, and they're painted. That's it.
Fair enough.
The other thing you can do, hobby-wise and miniature-wise, is taking winter Germans and taking winter Russians and mashing those bits together. You're probably going to need 2 boxes of infantry for your army anyway, for the most part. So if you buy one of each along the Warlord line, you'll have more than enough bits to customize a heavy winter-themed army that'll look absolutely amazing on the table. It's probably the number one tip I give to people who are interested in playing bins is look at your kit bash potential to do what you want to do. So that's my rant. That's my thing.
No, some solid advice, definitely. I know I'm curious now. I'm actually going to go online and after this podcast and do some research on other miniatures that are out there for the army, just to pique my curiosity.
There is. I know there is a 3D printed. There's a guy who does 3D printed stuff, models for fins in 28mm scale, and they look really good. They look really good for 3D prints, and he's put a lot of time and effort into them. And for your money, you are getting good stuff. There's winter themed and spring themed stuff that he's got. He's got like a reindeer hauling a truck or a trailer, and one of the fins is walking with him. So having reindeer in your army, it's all good. But other than that, and other than the Warlord metal fins, there's really not a lot. And there are quite a few people who are hoping that someone like Wargames Atlantic or Warlord Games come out with like a multi-part plastic kit.
A new plastic kit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. That's I think that's in the works for I shouldn't say in the works, but the thought of most wargamers are hoping that there's that box set coming out.
Yep.
Right. we know Warlord Games has mentioned how much it usually costs for a sprue or whatever, right? Like the design. It's a fair bit. It's a good chunk of change. So, I mean, they have to be selling a fair bit of it in order to make it worthwhile and this and that. But nothing beats a plastic set, honestly.
I love them. Love them.
Right. Like, call us spoiled because we've, played other systems that have more refined miniatures and whatnot, and we've been spoiled with plastic over the years. But at the same time, I mean, I'd rather personally deal with plastic than anything else. Resin or pewter. I do know, like Warlord Games, you play around with all three. I get it. It's part of the hobby process, and different companies have different products, which is fine because I enjoy all the miniatures, honestly. I noticed, like, and I don't know if there is a difference in size. You did mention something with the heads and whatnot, but I noticed with a couple of the ranges, like the Japanese, from the plastic to the pewter are a bit smaller. And the French, it's funny because they don't have plastic except their tank. But you can look at the miniatures and compare them to a different nation, plastic miniatures, and they are definitely a little bit tighter, a little bit like the rifles are pretty thin, so yeah, it's interesting. And, love it or hate it. A lot of guys still love pewter. A lot of guys obviously love plastic, right? So, beautiful thing about Warlord Games is you can play with whichever miniatures you want.
Oh yeah.
A lot of companies don't do that. Some do. A lot of bigger companies don't. But I think it's also becoming a understanding or whatever in the gaming community too, especially with 3D printing, that it's going to happen, right? If I can go and get these beautiful models 3D printed for an army, why not? Right? So, but the beautiful thing is there's options, and for, like you said, you mentioned quite a few options for building an army like this, which I'm sure people will grasp onto, and it helps them out if they're interested. And there's just lots of options out there that you can play around with. I know Bill's a big advocate of converting. He likes plastic. He didn't want to have any pewter in his army, so he converted stuff, and it looks great. Right? So, as long as you don't have some plasma gun on a British infantryman or something,
Hey, now we're talking about K-47 here, okay? So that's a whole other podcast that you got to invite me back for.
Yeah, I'll have to get you on there with the other guy, with Bob as well.
Bob, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Looking forward to seeing what they do with that game too, with that part of bolt action.
I'm so
That'll
excited.
be interesting.
So excited.
So cool, right on. I think that's pretty good for the episode. Lots of good info, lots of good kind of like tactics and stuff that you can use with this army, and just an insight of how this army kind of is and can be played, and its strengths, and of course some of its weaknesses as well. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Dayna. That was a really good one. I really enjoyed that, and gives me an insight in the army a little bit more, as like I said, it's a bit of a more of a rare army that you see on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So
I was happy to do it, and now we have to find one more obscure bolt action army to delve deep into for next time, maybe.
Don't worry, I have my Hungarians in the background. So
I was thinking Norway, but
we do have there is a gentleman who I haven't seen him in a long time, unfortunately. Really good guy, Cam. He actually was the only guy that I see play the Chinese.
Oh.
So
yeah.
it's a very interesting army as well. But that's for another episode.
Mhm.
So again, yeah, thanks for coming on. I hope you had a good time as well. It was good to see you the other week there at the 30K event that we had as well.
I was happy to be out. Yep.
Nice. And I'm hoping that eventually we'll get some more things going on and events and whatnot and collaborations.
Absolutely.
So if you guys are in the Calgary area there, go check out the gaming stores down there. Dayna,
Ogre's Den in Sentry Box.
there you go. Check them out. I'm sure you'll find Dayna there quite often. If you're looking for bolt action, I'm sure you'll see it instantly being played. And of course, all the other games that us gamers are involved in. Some good spaces to play. A lot of nice product there, and even some older product that will bring you back in time to check out. So if you love gaming, if you love wargaming, yeah, check the places out. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode too. We'll obviously have more of these style episodes, plus more, revolving around bolt action, of course. So check out our socials, Instagram, all that stuff. We also have the Patreon going if you're ever interested. Even just, every little thing helps. We get a cup of coffee here and there. But again, if you enjoyed it, let us know. Post comments. Maybe you have a different idea on the army. Maybe you disagree on certain things. Let us know. We love to hear that stuff. So again, thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you guys next time.